What would you do if a single night could change your destiny forever, but at a cost your soul may never recover from? That's the question that haunts the opening scene. Lagos is alive with its usual chaos, horns blaring, hawkers shouting, streetlights flickering like they're struggling to breathe. In a dimly lit corner, a young man named Jude paces back and forth outside a small roadside bar, his face drenched in sweat though the night breeze is cool. He isn't drunk, but his thoughts are heavy, like a man wrestling with something much darker than the world can see. Jude had always believed life owed him more. He grew up watching his mother struggle to raise him and his siblings after their father's early death. He hated the sight of poverty, how it bent his mother's back and tightened her face with lines before her time. By his mid-20s, he was done with excuses, done with waiting, done with prayers that seemed to bounce back from the sky unanswered. He wanted wealth, not just enough to survive, but the kind of wealth that turned heads, the kind that made people forget you were ever poor. It was on one of those nights of silent anger that Jude met Chike, a smooth-talking friend from his university days. Chike had dropped out mysteriously, but now drove a sleek black Benz, the kind of car Jude had only admired in glossy magazines. His gold wristwatch gleamed even in the dim light, and he always had a different woman clinging to his arm. "Jude, my guy," Chike's booming voice had a way of filling the air. "Why you day waste your fine brain? Lagos no day smile for slow men. If you want hammer, you gats take risk." Jude swallowed hard, knowing where this conversation was heading. "Chike, I beg no start. I know one enter wahala way go swallow me." But Chike only laughed, slapping his shoulder. "My brother, na fear day kill man past poverty. Do you want to die poor like your papa, or you want to live like king?" Those words stung, but they also burrowed deep. For days, Jude couldn't sleep. The image of Chike's Benz, the expensive perfumes, the gold wristwatch, they all replayed in his mind like a curse. Then came the night Chike finally opened up. They sat in a back room, the lights dim, with the smell of cigarette smoke thick in the air. "Brother, make I no lie to you," Chike began, his voice low. "Money ritual na the only way, na Yahoo Plus. You day see the life I day live, e no be luck, e no be hustle, na sacrifice." Jude froze, his stomach churned. "Sacrifice, as in human being?" Chike chuckled, shaking his head. "Calm down. Nobody say make you carry cutlass kill person. The spiritual man day handle everything. You just follow instructions. Before you know money go day flow like river." That night Jude went home restless. He stared at the cracked ceiling of his one-room apartment, and something in Jude snapped. And so, when the next evening came, Jude dressed quietly, not even telling his girlfriend Amara where he was going. He slipped out of the compound, his eyes darting about like a thief in the dark. Chike was already waiting for him at the corner of a deserted street, leaning casually against his car, puffing on a cigarette. "You came," Chike said with a sly grin, flicking the ash to the ground. Jude hesitated, his voice low. "I just want to understand, is this real, or are you playing games?" Chike gave a short laugh, the kind that sent chills down Jude's spine. "No games, my brother, but once you enter, there's no going back." They drove in silence for nearly an hour, leaving behind the bright lights of the city, until they reached a rural community Jude had never seen before. They got to an old, crumbling building that looked abandoned. Its walls were cracked, its windows dark, yet something about it felt alive, like unseen eyes were watching. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of burning incense. Candles flickered in every corner, their flames casting long shadows that danced on the walls. At the center of the room sat an old man, with other members dressed in white garments with red robes round their waist. The old man's skin wrinkled like dried leather, his head shaved clean, and his eyes burning with an unnatural glow. "This is Baba Kura," Chike said, lowering his head respectfully. "He is the one who holds the keys to the wealth you seek." Jude swallowed hard, his heart thudding in his chest. Baba Kura's gaze fixed on him, sharp and unblinking. "Young man," the old man's voice came out hoarse, yet commanding. "I see greed in your spirit, but greed alone is not enough. Are you willing to pay the price?" Jude opened his mouth, but no words came out. He felt trapped, as if the air in the room had become too thick to breathe. Finally, he managed a shaky nod. The old man rose to his feet, his movements slow but deliberate. He handed Jude a small clay pot filled with dark liquid and placed a razor blade beside it. "Your wife's life is the key," Baba Kura said. "Tonight you will cut, you will pour, and you will vow." Jude's hands trembled as he picked up the blade. His reflection stared back at him in the liquid, distorted by the rippling surface. He felt Chike's eyes on him, waiting, judging. With one swift motion, Jude dragged the blade across his mirror, which his wife's image appeared, flinching as pain seared through his heart. Drops of blood fell into the pot, mixing with the dark liquid until it bubbled as if alive. Baba Kura began chanting in a language Jude did not understand. The candles flickered wildly, and the shadows on the walls seemed to grow longer, darker, until they swallowed half the room. "From this night forward, wealth will follow you," the old man declared. "But remember this, the spirits do not give without taking. Your fortune will grow, but so will your debt." Jude stumbled out of the building later that night, his head spinning, his palm still bleeding. Chike clapped him on the back, grinning. "You've done it. Now watch how your life changes." And indeed, the change came fast. Within days, money began to flow into Jude's life in ways he could not explain. Business deals he had long abandoned suddenly came through. Strangers offered him opportunities that seemed too good to be true. He upgraded from his tiny apartment to a flashy condo, bought expensive clothes, and started throwing lavish parties. But behind the glamour, Jude carried a gnawing fear he couldn't shake off. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw spirit of his late wife crying in his dream. He began to wake up at night drenched in sweat, hearing whispers in the dark. Still, he drowned his fear with luxury. He told himself it was nothing, just paranoia, but deep down he knew. He had opened a door that could never be closed again. He knew what was coming. Every night the same nightmare. Every night the same face. His late wife's face, eyes red with sorrow, lips trembling with pain, haunted his dreams. She never spoke, but her silence was louder than 1,000 voices. Her spirit brought with it a flogging no whip in the physical world could compare to. Invisible lashes tore across his back, his arms, his very soul, leaving him trembling and screaming into the empty night. "Stop, please," Jude cried out, clutching his back as if to shield himself from blows no one else could see. His voice cracked with fear, his once confident tone now reduced to a broken whisper. The more money flowed into his account, the more torment filled his nights. He would wake drenched in sweat, breathing as though he had been running, the echoes of those lashes still reverberating in his bones. By day, Jude was the perfect image of success. He wore tailored suits, drove flashy cars, and laughed loudly at parties filled with strangers who praised his new wealth. But by night, when the world grew quiet and the shadows returned, he was nothing more than a trembling child trapped in a nightmare of his own making. One particular night, the torment grew unbearable. He dreamt again of his wife, but this time her spirit carried a whip glowing with fire. She stood at the foot of his bed, her wrapper torn, her eyes hollow, her hair wild like a raging storm. "You thought you could silence me, Jude," her ghostly voice hissed. "But blood speaks, and mine will never stop speaking." She raised the whip, and with each strike Jude screamed louder, writhing on his bed as red welts formed across his chest and back. He thrashed and fought, his arms flailing in the air, but there was no escape. When he finally woke, panting and shaking, his expensive bedsheet was stained with his own blood. Jude stumbled to the mirror and gasped. His skin bore the same fresh marks he had felt in the dream. "No, no, this can't be real," he whispered, tears rolling down his cheeks. I must end this." The next day, desperate and broken, Jude sought out a herbalist in a secluded part of Lagos. The man, old and frail, listened silently as Jude explained between sobs. "She keeps flogging me," Jude said, his voice trembling. "Every night, I killed her like Baba Kura said, but she won't let me rest. I need her spirit locked away. Please help me." The herbalist's eyes narrowed. "Spirits of the innocent cannot be changed so easily. You shed her blood and her spirit is bound to yours. Every lash is her pain returned to you." Jude slammed his fist on the wooden table, desperation twisting his face. "I don't care. Do something, anything, I'll pay." The old man sighed deeply and handed Jude a black clay pot covered in strange inscriptions. "This pot can trap wandering spirits, but know this, if her spirit refuses to be locked, the pot will turn against you." Jude nodded quickly, not caring about the warning. All he wanted was peace. That night he placed the pot in the middle of his condo and lit red candles around it. His hands shook as he poured palm oil inside, whispering the chants the herbalist had taught him. The air grew cold. The flames of the candles flickered wildly, then bent as though drawn toward the pot. Jude's heart pounded in his chest. Suddenly the spirit of his wife appeared again, this time more vivid than ever. Her eyes locked onto his, filled with sorrow and fury. "You think you can cage me, Jude?" she whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. Stay inside and leave me alone," Jude shouted, his eyes wild as he forced the pot toward her. The spirit screamed, a shrill, piercing cry that shook the walls of the condo. Jude fell to his knees, pressing the pot closer as her form began to swirl like smoke, drawn reluctantly toward the clay vessel. For a moment, Jude thought he had succeeded. Then the pot cracked. The pot shattered completely, its shards flying in all directions. "You cannot lock away guilt, Jude," her spirit thundered. "You cannot bury the blood of the innocent." And from that day, Jude ran mad. He would walk the streets barefoot, dressed in rags despite his wealth, swatting at invisible lashes that rained upon him. Leave me alone," he would shout, his body jerking violently as strangers stared in horror. Friends abandoned him. Business partners withdrew. His flashy condo became a prison, the walls echoing with his endless screams. When morning came, Jude's body was found lifeless. His wealth, his cars, his flashy clothes, all remained, but his tortured soul was gone. And so Jude's story ended, not with glory, not with wealth, but with madness, pain, and death.